Here's the first and best argument. How could you hate a chapter that references Gurren Lagann? Look, she even does the Gainax pose. There you go, I already showed you everything that needed to be shown to make my case. If you ask people what their low point in the game was, it will most likely be Chapter 4, Aegis. The question is, why though? And the answer is as simple as the question itself. It feels like filler. Is filler always bad? Is the chapter even filler to begin with? What is filler? Are there any other reasons? If you watch anime or TV shows, you will know what filler is. They're episodes that feel like they don't actually add anything to the overall story, don't push any character progression, things like that. Does it automatically make them bad? No, unless they're also really boring. One of the most beloved Dragon Ball Z episodes is filler, the one where Piccolo learns how to drive a car. It's just dumb fun that's enjoyable, so you don't mind it. Then you get bad filler that's just boring and does nothing really, and it's just there so the anime won't catch up with the manga yet, but they also don't want to put it onto an hiatus because they want the money. A good example of that would be Boruto. I don't watch it, but half of the episodes are considered filler. It has a filler episode where Sasuke fights against dinosaur stuff, that's kinda cool. Or filler instead of the episode itself that is part of the main story, like Captain Tsubasa running across the football pitch for a whole episode because they need to stretch one manga chapter into a full episode where it makes it feel a bit stretchy, like bubblegum. And if I would have to call chapter 4 a filler chapter, it would mostly fit into that category, having its own little sub-story as part of the bigger plot and giving you a whole bunch of world building even at the lowest point of it, if you consider it that, but actually I wouldn't call it filler at all. It starts right with the game explaining you what Mithra actually is, or Pyra, same with Malus, and Aegis, so the name of the chapter is really fitting, talking a bit about the Aegis War, Mithra turning Rex into a little snail, while Nia stands there with her mouth wide open while he gets insulted. I love the cutscene just for that. Another important part, right at the beginning, is Minnow revealing what a Flesh Eater is, and Nia's reaction to it is pretty interesting since if you played through the game, you know she's also one. If you don't know that she is one yet, you might just think she's really surprised that such a thing is possible. But if you know she is one, it takes a whole different meaning. Finally meeting someone like herself but not being allowed to reveal it. I mean, she already met other flesh eaters, but those were criminals. Instead of also meeting someone who isn't using that power for evil, but also allowing her to see the reactions of the group to it, and everyone is positive about it, so it gives her a bigger reason to come clean with herself and the others eventually, something we will see in this chapter again later. It also got some unintentional humor like Rex saying this just so power can end up like this pretty much 20 seconds after.
Make a girl cry? That's not gonna fly. Make a girl smile? You pass the trial.
And the infamous Mithra sleeps in the wrong bed scene, and it's just really cute. Is it some overplayed anime joke? Maybe, but who cares? Xenoblade 2's silliness is just what I love about the game. It may be cringe to others, but to me it's precious. But do you know what's actually cringe in video games? Fetch quests. Especially the ones that just make you go from one point to the next, and then go here, hey wait, go back here, no go over there, and so on. That's what chapter 4 opens with basically after you got through all these little cutscenes I talked about. A bunch of Gomorrah kids steal Rock's core crystal, something that you shouldn't lose because it's basically a souvenir from Vandam who retired in a peaceful manner, so it's up to you to get it back by following them around and finding out why they did it. Does it add anything to the bigger picture? Not really, but it gives you a little glimpse into the world. We know that Torigov nowadays under the control of Mor Ardain, the next place we have to go to. In chapter 2 we already also saw that they're not taking great care of it really, using it for their own profits mostly, instead of giving it to the people of the town or the surrounding areas. The kids didn't just steal it for profit to sell it off though. Bandits destroyed their village and they want a way to avenge it, and stealing a core crystal that then turns into a strong blade if they resonate with it can help them with it. It's a little sob story that makes you feel a bit bad for them, just like the party, which fits into one of the main themes of the game, forgiveness and giving people a chance to better themselves. Unless your name is Nia, then you do deserve to get a big punishment in her opinion, even if you're just a kiddo. Then you got Rex who just gets them a job instead. Go work in the mines like we did back in the day, dumb kids. It could have been just a little side quest, but I think the true reason why it's an actual main story quest is that they wanted to have a set piece for Rock's awakening, since Rock belonged to an important character before, and they wanted to show off the how blades losing their memories thing when they get reawakened, and how they also are influenced by the earlier driver. You meet the blade Wulfric through the main story too, but there they didn't really need to build a story around it. Imagine your earlier driver being a freaking spider. It would fit someone like Cassandra with all of her unluck. Poor her. Just the imagination of being awakened and then this huge thing just looks at you and you think, I don't want this. In my recording, it was just 30 minutes, and obviously I'm on New Game Plus, so the fights were way shorter, so it would be more like 40 minutes. It does feel a bit shoved into it. In the other chapters, you always get to a new place at the start of it, but here you have to actually go back to places you have been to already, so it's also a bit blue balling you before you get to the main part. After that, you're finally free to go to Mor Ardain and get to the actual part of the chapter that you want. That fresh smell of a new titan to explore and see what's going on there. And the exploration part of it is a bit tricky for most people. A bit more about that later. The real story of chapter 4 starts here now, and you're gonna take Mithra's first bath in 500 years. Imagine the smell, before and after. It's not your typical hot spring scene, because it also again foreshadows Nia's flesh eaterness, since Pyro and Mithra spot her core crystal since she's naked. That's the whole reason why she normally wears the yellow jumpsuit to hide all of those traits. If you want to know more about Nia, you can watch my video that's fully dedicated to her. I would recommend it, obviously. It's one of the few things I'm proud of in my life. You could say she was a bit careless about it, letting people see it, but the earlier scene with Minov let her be a bit more at peace about it, since no one had anything bad to say about it. She knows she's in good hands, so she can let her guard down a bit more, till she eventually reveals it to everyone. On your first playthrough, you may not get all of these little bits of foreshadowing, but on a replay it just makes you open your eyes more and you go, oh, that's why it was done like this. Can't relax after a nice bath though, because there's things happening outside, like a cool robot maid beating up soldiers and you getting blamed for it. And that's what the subplot here revolves about. Who is that maid? Who built her? Was it daddy porn? Since Tora's dad was abducted once by totally not the same guy who lured you into this town. Nope, that is not him. The story here doesn't really add much more to the greater picture except for a few things I will mention later, but is it always needed? You learn more about Mithra's personality here while getting to enjoy the silliest parts of the game, and the silly parts is what I also love about Xenoblade 2 and what the others are lacking a bit for me. That's just my personal taste though. For others this will just feel dumb and cringe, but for me it's amazing. So eventually you get to a point that will make you groan. Either you have enough knob-on wisdom to read what's on the barrel, or you don't, so you have to do a merc mission that will take you maybe 30 minutes. In that time the game probably wants you to go around town, doing side quests and all that, but if you're not the type of person who wants to do those things, you have to just sit around. I won't defend this, but isn't Xenoblade the type of game you want to explore in? So the game pushing you away for 30 minutes from its main story isn't the end of the world, but obviously it's still dumb. I won't defend this. Then maybe you will groan even louder when it comes to the next part, since there are two paths and somehow most people will take the path that is worse to take. One of the paths to the factory is full of level 80 enemies, but that's what I loved about it. Isn't that what Xenoblade's level design is about too sometimes? Scouting around the area to see what level each enemy is and looking around to find a way past them if they're too high level. I don't see this as a bad thing, but as an actual good design decision to keep you on your toes so you learn about your surroundings. Or you can take the more intended way, where the enemies around your level when you just break open a bent door. I have no idea how so many people miss this path and always think they have to take the more dangerous one. Oh, field skills. Maybe that's the explanation here. One of the most hated mechanics in the game, so there's your answer, why people don't really bother with this route instead, I guess. The thing is, it doesn't expect too much from you here. It sounds like a lot. Fire Mastery 3 and Wind Mastery 2? I wonder how I will get those. And the answer is as simple as baking a pie, depending on the pie you bake, because some pies are really damn hard to bake. It's impossible not to have Fire Mastery 2 with Pyro at this point already, because one of the requirements is visiting 12 places. That's impossible to not have, since the main story alone takes you through way more than that. Her other Fire Mastery is a bit farther into the ring, where it's possible not to have enough key affinity for it yet, but even then, you easily have another common fire blade laying around somewhere, same with a wind blade. I'm not trying to say field skills are the best thing ever because I do not like them that much either, since I don't like the whole changing this around with that around and hanging around in menus instead of actually playing the game, but this is an actually totally valid field skill check that can be passed as easily as your food after realizing it was rotten. The worst thing about the affinity chart is that it doesn't open up these slots by itself. You always have to go into the menu and then it shows you, hey, you did something to unlock this or that instead of it happening in the background. This check just feels a bit like they really wanted to show you that you should make sure to kinda have a balanced variety of these skills and check them every once in a while. Cause maybe you do have Pyro in your party but never have checked it a single time, so a Fire Mastery is still level 1 and you think, wow, how could I get through here? So for people who bother to interact with the game's mechanics, you get a reward here, the easier path to take, while people who didn't want to interact with the field skill stuff get told, hey, okay, take the hard way then. It also feels like they try their hardest to tell you to not take the hard path. In front of it are two spider enemies that are a bit higher level than you should be in the game, and they are easy to take on, but in the corner of the room is a level 81 snake, because it just sleeps there. Good night, have sweet dreams. Make sure not to wake it up or else you're gonna get messed up. To me it just screams, hey, please, take the other way. And the other part of the factory isn't even really that confusing either to walk through. It's already big, so there's no real way to get lost here. In comparison to Xenoblade X, it does lack the nice features that it gave you to explore, like the tracking ball, but I never felt this section of the game is really that bad to figure out on where to go next, since it's just a bunch of hallways that either lead you outside or into a dead end. I already played through the game like 5 times, but even when I played it for my first time ever, I never got stuck here. I wish I did, because I'm the kind of person who loves to get stuck. I'm a masochist though, so maybe that's why. But even if you die a couple of times, taking level 80 wood, it doesn't really make you lose anything. Eventually you will get through that path if you're stubborn enough. When I had my first try running it back and forth when recording this footage, I didn't even die a single time here. If you pay attention to the movement, it will always be easy enough not to pull any aggro. And even if you do, most of these enemies take a bit to wind up the animations to attack, like the snakes, where you're already out of range again before they can hit you. I totally understand why people think this part sucks, but I personally don't mind it. It forces you to engage with the game's mechanics and also exploration. For me, this is a really subjective thing where I don't think you are wrong for hating it, but I also don't think I'm wrong for loving it. So we will have to agree to disagree if you disagree with me, or maybe you're actually agreeing with me, I have to also agree with you. How complicating. At least you get to see one of the best cutscenes afterwards that also became infamous. Chapter 4 is really full of those. The cutscene where Nia drops the one-eyed monster line, a Nintendo character talking about you know what, even though she doesn't know what it means, but Mithra knows, for whatever reason.
Did I what? You've got a lot of nerve, you one-eyed monster.
Nia, you do know one-eyed monster usually means...
Huh? Means what?
It's, Mithra, why are you blushing?
Shut up!
After arriving at the actual factory, the silliness does not stop while the game kinda plays it straight in a comedic way, as if no one realized that Mui Mui is the villain, and Banner too, the giant Noppon you met in chapter 1 already, who is producing mechanical blades for Tora, a story point that will become relevant again. Lila pretending to be dying will probably just make fun of Tora. Those kind of silly events that just make you smile and think, damn, I love anime, or they make you go, damn, I hate anime. You will say those words even louder soon. First you gotta groan again when the game does a stable of JRPGs, taking away a character. Here it's Tora, your tank. So you're gonna get through the factory without a tank, and it's not that bad when it's just a normal tierkin. There is one security tierkin though that you need to beat up to get a key, and you know what, he was hard as hell when I first played the game. He even has a little pet bunny. He kinda hits hard, is kinda tanky, but obviously I'm on New Game Plus here, so it's super duper easy for me, even without a tank. On my first playthrough he kept beating me because I didn't change my tactics. I used Rex as an attacker and Nia was the healer, but it wasn't enough till eventually I got lucky since maybe more heal pods spawned and some attacks of his missed me, things like that. But I didn't change my tactic at all, where it feels like the game wants you to change it up. What do you do without a tank? How about becoming one yourself? Putting tanky blades on Vex instead of DPS ones while Nia just heals you as much as she can and you beat the T King like that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. There's actually tons of classes in the game that you most likely won't ever bother with because you just feel like Vex DPS, Nia healer, Tora tank. Instead everyone can be anything if you equip different blades and they all have different bonuses like receiving less damage, getting more heal pots, things like that. Normally you don't ever have to care about this, but at this little point in the game it feels the game expects you to switch it up like this. And being a bit more tanky also helps with the next fight, Giga Rosa. Do I even have to say more about this one? Either you love it with how animated it is, or you hate it, especially when you even get a magical girl kind of transformation of Poppy with her cutie form. Xenoblade 2 really has it all. At the end of the chapter it also introduces Mikhail and Petroka, the last two Tora members we were missing, and also Fen Lanor. It just ends with a total bang of new characters and action and making you wonder what is next, or maybe it just makes you happy the chapter is finally over for you. For fans of mecha, it also has more mecha references in it, especially big nods to Mazinger Z and Gurren Lagann. I love it when developers just go ham, you know? How about I show people what I love? Takashi Tetsuya, the man who founded Monolith Soft, loves mechas. That's not a secret, why else would he make so many games with mechas in them? He also wrote the overall plot of the game, but it doesn't mean he wrote the game all by himself though. There were also Yuichiro Takeda and Katsuho Hyodo on the team. Both of them split the chapters half and half. Hyodo worked on the chapters that had uneven numbers, while Takeda worked on the ones that had even numbers. You don't need to be good at math to know that chapter form is an even number, and in the same interview he even says it's his favorite chapter in the game because he loves robots, and well, he truly showed us that he does love them a lot. The last line in the interview is basically "I hope that you all like it too," which is a bit sad to think about that it ended up being the least favorite one, perhaps. In my own personal opinion, I also just loved it and never thought it feels out of place or just lame. It also is more of a cooldown chapter after everything that happened at the end of chapter 3. Always just having action can be good, but can also be a bit tiring. I love how Xenoblade 2 always breaks up the tension with some comedy that you may not laugh at, but for me it walks the perfect balance between silly and serious at the right times. With that said, I hope I could defend chapter 4 well and maybe make you love it a bit more too, even if you hated it. Or maybe you were also a fan of it. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night, or whatever fits your time zone. I just really love Xenoblade 2, my favorite game of all time, so maybe I'm just totally biased and none of this should have been taken seriously. Bye bye.